satire has to be one of my favorite subgenres of comedy because it deals with very real and very painful problems of today's world. More often than not, satire does what comedy does best, which is to punch up to society, to hypocrisy, to the powerful. Excellent examples of satire would include Jojo Rabbit, which brings light to the indoctrination of hate within our youth. Sorry to Bother You, shining a light to the corporate greed of America. Or even I Care a Lot with the American healthcare system. But for this week, the film that I really want to talk about and focus on is the political satire directed and written by Adam McKay, Don't Look Up. So, the beginning of the film does an excellent job showing you the initial perspective of the film. And boy, oh boy, it's just science, right? We're shown this huge facility that is like a deep space telescope. It's gigantic and metallic, and science is everywhere, right?
It's the most science.
It's everywhere.
In the film.
Yeah, so we're kind of shown like this initial approach, right, within the scientific method, that taking in data and analyzing it for what it is, both good, right, in that initial excitement of discovering this gigantic asteroid, and then the catastrophe of realizing, oh shit, this thing's going to crash into planet Earth, right?
They raise the stakes in this film immediately.
Yeah, they don't mess around.
It's strong.
Yeah.
It's like the inciting incident in this film is just like, oh, okay, we're gonna die.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
But I love the fact that they actually spend some time to actually just like get with the excitement of it, because if you guys when we're filming this, the NBC just came with an article about how they just released or came out with another image of a black hole.
Yeah, you told me that. Actually.
That's huge.
That's actually crazy.
That's insane, right?
We've never gotten that, right?
We got one earlier, but this is another one.
Okay.
It takes 12 telescopes around the world just to be able to take a blurry picture of a black hole.
I mean,
that's insane.
Like the concept of a black hole is just basically nothing ever. It's a point. So
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, so I can't imagine what the fuck that was.
I'm just kind of like, all right, that makes sense.
I'm assuming that's a black hole.
You're telling me that it is, yeah. What it's shown is that this film is more than its institutions, and the further away that the data gets from its initial source of the scientific initial data, right, the more confusing and ultimately divisive the life-threatening, life-killing asteroid ultimately is. After the film reveals the asteroid is going to hit Earth, Adam McKay gives us this quote from Bob Monkhouse. He's for those who don't know, he's an English talk show host, right? Comedic talk show host, right? So Adam McKay fades in with the beginning of the quote saying, "I want to die peacefully in my sleep with like my grandfather," right? And then he fades in with the punchline, "Not screaming in terror like the rest of his passengers." So Fumba, let me ask you, what do you think exactly this Adam McKay is saying by putting in this initial quote?
Yeah, I mean, well, just thinking about it, I think I wouldn't say I guess not quite the irony. I guess it's just the poetic nature of the film, because that's what we all kind of want, right? That's what everyone's looking for in this film, is especially the main characters, like they're trying to stop this asteroid from happening,
right?
So that everyone can sleep soundly at night and continue living life as they should. None of that happens.
No.
No one gets what they want, and then everyone inadvertently ends up
dead.
Screaming or dead, like the passengers on a plane.
Yeah.
This is about to crash. Except for the protagonists, because they did everything they could do to stop the situation, foiled by the incompetence of the people who should stop the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it is irony.
I feel like on two levels. One, it showed the fact that it's a quote from a comedian, is one that it's going to be like meant in a comedic manner, right? It's going to be light and levity, but also at the end of the day, we're dealing with something very dark undertones of society, right? And it's going to be a lot to swallow, right? It's going to feel like an asteroid's going to hit the planet, right? So when this film came out, I absolutely loved the subject matter, where the world is ending, an asteroid is hurtling towards Earth, in a situation in which we need our leaders to act and protect the people of the planet. And we, even more importantly, I would say, need a media source that could give us up-to-date, accurate information, right? No biases.
So basically, we need people to do their jobs.
Funny, yeah. Obviously.
You would think.
This film doesn't do any of that. Instead, it shows us an unreliable administration, a distracted media, corrupt military leadership, tech companies with alternative motives, social media, and celebrity within the world at large. Suffice it to say, this film deals with a lot of subjects. It takes aim at a lot, right?
It goes pretty hard.
Right, and reviewing the responses over the vast subject matter, right, this was honestly the biggest criticism for this film, right, is that it deals with so much stuff, right, that it can ultimately feel distracting. And you'll be hard-pressed to argue the opposite. But in my opinion, McKay taking aim at all these parts within society is going to show light of the failings that these parts have brought to the world, right?
Because, not to cut you off. What I take from that is when people say that there are too many things happening or too many topics that he wants to discuss, it's all the same topic.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Yeah. Corruption.
It's general corruption and a general lack of urgency. You can even look at the state of America right now. There are a myriad of things happening in-house that are going terribly.
And not getting fixed.
Like there's a baby formula shortage. Which I don't even know what the fuck that is. It's like, how do we run out of baby formula when we're constantly having babies? You just passed a new bill saying you might not be able to get an abortion, and now we have no baby formula. But it
just seems like we're going backwards.
Instead of trying to put money into the institutions to make life better for the American citizens, we're sending money elsewhere. And granted, that's a big deal. We should be helping when we can.
Right.
But the thing is, we can't afford to do that now.
Can we help our regular citizens? This actually brings me to my next point, right? That a lot of these characters in the film, right, are easily based off of real people. Take the military general who brings snacks to Leonardo, Jennifer Lawrence's, and Rob Morgan's characters in the film, right? He ends up charging them for the snacks, right? We later find out that snacks in the White House are free. For the rest of the film, anytime you see the snack or the character, it turns out to be a running gag, and it genuinely adds some levity to the dark undertone of the film.
I actually forgot about that.
Right? But what if I told you this character could possibly be based on a real-life person who ultimately was in charge of feeding the troops during the Middle East War? This guy's name is Stephen Ornstein, right? And his company is called Supreme Food Service. So since 2005, he was responsible for getting the supplies to troops they needed in order to survive. Okay. And over the course of 6 years, the Defense Department paid him a whopping $5.5 billion. And due to the emergency services, right, Ornstein realized that he could charge up the wazoo, charge absurd amount of money for a regular everyday meal. Now, Fumba, please, guess how much he charged?
I'm assuming an absurd amount. I don't know, like $500?
$20,000.
Get the fuck out of here. Yo, he's charging $20,000.
$20,000 for a
Chef Boyardee.
That's some good Chef Boyardee.
Oh my god.
That's the best ingredients. That's the best ingredient.
So
$20,000. So this character in the film is honestly, it's a simple little moment where it's like snacks, but it all ultimately ties into the corruption within our actual country. And in case if you're wondering, Ornstein was ultimately brought before Congress, right? And where Congress was found to have paid an over of $100 million in simply shipping costs, right? This doesn't include any other forms of theft that the company or the man brought to the American people. But he ultimately agreed to pay $434 million in criminal penalties. Now, Fumba, to a billionaire, does this seem like a lot of money?
I mean, seeing as how I'm not a millionaire, I would imagine
billionaire. He's a billionaire.
Oh no, this is not a lot of money.
I mean, for me, I'm might as well put me in a cell. I'm not gonna ever be able to pay that.
I'm in jail forever.
I would love to have $434 million.
Right.
That sounds nice.
Like, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, but honestly, no, it doesn't. This is just a slap on the wrist, right? But for me, ultimately, what I think that McKay ultimately takes the most focus on is our media. Sure, you could argue that the politicians are the main focus, but I would argue that the people who are meant to keep the politicians in check within our society is our media, is our press institutions, right? That beyond the politics, the facts and data of a life-threatening event should take top priority and be brought to the general public. But instead, the media gets distracted by celebrity and stories that aren't really life-threatening, right? Again, this has real-world implications. Take Johnny Depp or Amber Heard, or the Will Smith slapgate, right? Stories like these get a lot of attention in comparison to the Ukrainian war, for that matter, right? One talks of a person literally taking a shit on a person's mattress, and the other one talks about the possibility of thermonuclear war. So, which one do you think we should focus on?
You know what's kind of interesting is we were just talking about. I just learned about the shortage of baby formula.
Yeah.
Right, and that's terrible.
Yeah.
But then, like, before that, I also just found out that Ray J was forced into what they made. Apparently, that sex tape that he made with Kim Kardashian was like planned, and it was a staged thing.
Really?
Yeah, but like, who gives a fuck? We're running out of baby formula. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
so I'm like, oh really? Like I immediately get distracted into it, right? So while these things could be like distracting or even entertaining, right?
Yeah.
In comparison to other world consequences like not having baby formula, right? They don't really have any merit, right?
I'm sorry, it was just the fact that you were like, oh wait, actually.
Yeah, I was like, oh, really? You're like, I got completely sucked into it. I was ready for it, you know? Yeah. I fall into it. It's so easy, ladies and gentlemen, but we got to stay vigilant. We got to stay on top. Myself, I got to do it.
We're all susceptible.
We're all susceptible to it. Absolutely, right? But honestly, this is not a happy film, right? This shows how the government institutions have failed. And honestly, one of the most beautiful motifs that this film does is it has these rapid cuts showing families, animals, locations, and societies all over the world. It speaks to the immovable fact that if you take away the institutions and the governments or even the borders, right? We're all just earthlings on this planet, right? Trying to live lives to the fullest, right? So as screenwriters, as filmmakers, what do you guys think the role of the artist is meant to be in this situation? Do you believe that Adam McKay has brought light to our failing institutions? Or do you think this film is overly distracted with the messaging and it fails to deliver on a conclusive story? Honestly, what are your guys' thoughts?
We'd love to hear